Welcome into the SBR Betting Roundtable, coming to you every Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, alongside Donnie Rightside, Ian Cameron, Jeff Nadeau. I am Drew Martin. We're going to be hitting on some NFL, some college basketball, some college football, also throwing a couple Canadian sports there for a minute or two with Ian Cameron. But guys, let's go right around the horn. Introduce yourselves. What's on your mind sports betting-wise? Donnie Rightside, welcome in. Find him on Twitter at RightSideVP. Donnie, welcome to the show.
Hey, yeah, good. Hey, interesting week here. You had some good college basketball matchups last night. Action in full effect. NFL schedule, heading down the backstretch here. A lot of good times, a lot of money to be made here. So happy to be on the roundtable. One of my favorite shows of the week, Drew.
Yeah, we're happy to have you, man. And Ian Cameron, find him on Twitter at Babano, his work at sportsmemo.com. Ian, welcome in, buddy.
Yeah, what isn't there to do? What isn't there to bet at this time of year? If you can't find something, it's time to do something else with your life and your time, because it's crazy not to think of something to bet at this time of year. It's the month of November. Everything's coming at you full force. Gotta love it.
Yeah, and a guy that knows that with the best of them, going head deep into college basketball, knows it as good as anybody. Find him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. Big man on campus. Welcome in, buddy.
Hey, good to be with you, Drew. Glad to be on the roundtable. Always a fun show. Excited about this.
Yeah, excited to work in some college basketball and get your opinion. I know you know it as good as anybody. Off to a good start in college hoops. But guys, let's get into the NFL. We're all involved in it a little bit. You can't not be the king of sports betting in some way, as far as sports betting goes in sports. But Donnie Rightside, what about a bet on team you're looking at in the NFL? Do you have one for us?
Yeah, bet on team. I mean, keep it pretty simple here. You've watched them, get better and better as the season goes on. We're a little bit shaky to start the season. That would be the New England Patriots. Each week you're watching them now getting better and better on the defensive side of the football. They absolutely blew out the Denver Broncos, same way the Philadelphia Eagles did. Going down to Mexico this week to play a little bit shaky Raiders defense in this, but it's one of those teams, Drew, right now with the New England Patriots and Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and Matt Patricia getting it all cooking at one time. I don't want to step in front of that train. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win big again against the Raiders. I think it's a 4:00 game there down in Mexico, so not a primetime game, but watch out for the Patriots right now. They are a bet-on team.
And you bring up Mexico City. What is that, Azteca Stadium or something like that? It's one of the good ones in this hemisphere. Do you factor in the elevation at all there in Mexico City into that handicap?
No, because, neither one of them are used to. You always say you factor it in if you play in Denver, because Denver's used to that elevation, practice in it, live in it. Their bodies are already acclimated there. Both the Raiders and the Patriots don't really have any. I mean, I know the Broncos just played out in Denver. The Patriots just played the Broncos out in Denver, stayed for an extra week in Colorado Springs to try to get acclimated and training in that high altitude heading down to Mexico. But both these teams in a neutral site environment there. I don't think either one is going to have an edge on either one of these.
Damn, that sounds actually like it could be an edge. That's a good handicap there. They stayed extra to get used to the elevation, huh?
That's Belichick, yeah. That's what Belichick does. I mean, he uses everything to his advantage.
Yeah, big man, you got something on that?
Yeah. Actually, this is an interesting point that Donnie raises. In soccer, this is one of the toughest stadiums to play in the world due to the extremely high elevation. I mean, Colorado Springs is about 6,000 feet high, which is very high. I mean, Mexico City's up over at almost 7,400 feet. I mean, it's a grueling place to play. I mean, and I think that's why the Patriots are such an amazing organization. I mean, they think ahead with things like this. I mean, if this was, would Ben McAdoo do something like this, or one of those kind of guys? I mean, this is tremendous preparation. And I mean, what do you expect? But it'll be interesting because this is a grueling place to play. I mean, even the best athletes in the world, people like, soccer players are very conditioned. And this by many is rated one of the toughest, just with the overall construction of the stadium, the way it is, the noise, it's very loud. I'm not sure if that'll be a big problem here, but the overall elevation is particularly grueling. So yeah, I think that's
Jeff, how about when you throw in there down as Azteca with the bad actual, like the smog and the awful air conditions that they have as well, and you're at high elevation. Good point.
That's a good point. It's an extremely densely populated city as well. I mean, that's talked about constantly. I mean, almost 9 million people live in Mexico City. I mean, it's very populated. There's a ton of pollution, that kind of stuff. Yeah, this is tough. I mean, this is gonna be a tough place to play for both these teams.
I think we lost Drew.
Looks
here.
like we lost.
Drew is gone.
Drew down there. Yeah, hey,
I'm going to go right into mine.
Get rid of him. Get rid of him.
That's all right. I'm going to.
Yep. Now we can play out.
My
here.
bet on team. It's a little crazy.
Yeah.
It's a little bonkers. But I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts because as bad a team as the Indianapolis Colts are, I'm seeing something that I'm not seeing. I'm seeing something from them that I am not seeing from the Texans, from the Giants, from some of these horrible football teams. I'm seeing effort. I'm seeing compete. I'm seeing a try from the Indianapolis Colts on a weekly basis. We saw it against Pittsburgh. We saw it against Houston. We saw it against Cincinnati, even though they lost that Bengals game late because of a fumble return touchdown. This team is competing. And for these losing teams like the Indianapolis Colts that are not going to attract betting market attention, they're not going to attract the odds makers respect one bit because they're losing, but they're competing. They're catching big numbers. They're staying inside these big numbers. We're seeing that now from the Indianapolis Colts. We're seeing Jacoby Brissett progress instead of regress at the quarterback spot. Marlon Mack has helped, giving them another weapon on the offensive side of the ball. And the defense is still not very good, but I'm seeing a try out of them. I'm seeing compete out of them. They're playing at least a little bit better than they were earlier on in the season. Indianapolis, one of those teams, not going anywhere. Chuck Pagano's still a horrible coach. We understand that. I'm not going to make him out to be the second coming of Vince Lombardi, Chuck Noll, or Bill Walsh. I'm not in the business of doing that. But the Indianapolis Colts are trying. And as long as the effort is still there with this football team in the remaining weeks of the season, the point spread value may be there to back them.
There you go, Ian. Why don't we just keep it on the same thing? We'll go back around the horn on a fade on team in the NFL. Ian, why don't we start with you? Head it right back around the corner. What are we looking at here?
Fade team. I've got to stick with even though they won their first game last week against the New York Giants, rather. The San Francisco 49ers still a fade team for me until they get Jimmy Garoppolo, if Jimmy Garoppolo sees the field, because I do think there'll be an uptick with him at the quarterback spot. Although, again, you got to be cautious with that. Yeah, he's better than C.J. Beathard or Hoyer before that. I understand that, but limited skill position weapons. This is not a influx of wide receiving depth and talent or a great offensive line by any stretch of the imagination. But I think they just took advantage of a moribund, pathetic, dysfunctional, completely chaotic New York Giant football team last week in that victory against the Giants. Now you might actually see more point spread value to go against the 49ers because maybe they get a bump in their power rating for the Giants. I don't bump anybody for beating the New York Giants right now in their power rating, not even maybe. So San Francisco, just because they won last week, I'm not convinced now this being a big time turn in the other direction for the 49ers in the weeks to come.
Looks like Drew popped in and I guess popped back out there. So I'll go keep it right around the corner. Right around the horn there. Fade on team for me, gentlemen, is going to be the Buffalo Bills. And the news that comes out today is exactly why they're going to be a fade on team. Because coming into the football season, what do we all think? They're making a lot of moves. They're making trades. They're, I'm trying to get my guys in here as the new head coach and the new regime takes over. They actually had a pretty good start to the season. You figured they would say, you know what? We're going to get Kelvin Benjamin in here. Let's make a playoff push. Boy, did that go in reverse really quickly at this point. Now you're seeing Tyrod Taylor is going to be benched for Nathan Peterman, almost in one of those cases, guys, where you say, you know what? I just want to see what I have here. I don't think we're going anywhere. I never picked this year to be my year as, the head coach and the new regime coming into town. I just want to evaluate and see what I have before I have to move forward. That's one of those things and signals to me that you show the locker room now says, wait a second, say what you want against Tyrod Taylor. Not the biggest fan of the guy, but he is a starting quarterback in the NFL, and you're still in the thick of the playoff race. Now you're raising up that white flag to see what you have in a rookie quarterback that doesn't bowl well, and that signals all bad moves there for the locker room itself. Fade on team for me heading down the stretch now, the Buffalo Bills.
You know what that tells me to this move, and I'm shocked by this move that Nathan Peterman's going to be the quarterback here for the Buffalo Bills. It tells me that this Tyrod Taylor from day one, if you could have asked Sean McDermott, will Tyrod Taylor be my quarterback long-term with this organization, he would tell you no right then and there. That's what this tells me loud and clear. Sean McDermott does not want Tyrod Taylor as his long-term quarterback of this football team. So I think that bridge now has been burned when you make this kind of decision, when you're a 5-4 football team, still right in the thick of the race in the AFC in terms of the playoff picture to make this move. That clearly tells you, your team, your fan base, and everybody around that Tyrod Taylor is not your guy. And I'm just not sure this is a move that is going to sit well with everyone. I mean, Tyrod Taylor's not a perfect quarterback. No, of course not. He's got accuracy problems at times. Sometimes the throws he should make, he's not capable of making them at times. But he's still athletic. He's still fleet of foot. And as far as I'm concerned, Tyrod Taylor wasn't your issue against New Orleans. It was a run defense that, since Marcel Darius got traded away, wouldn't be able to stop me running the football right down their throat, as far as I'm concerned right now, this Bills team. So that's their biggest problem. Where was the run defense when it was just handoff up the middle to Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram last week for the Saints, that just absolutely carved you up like a Thanksgiving turkey, which is just around the corner for my friends in the United States, by the way. So that's the issue. Tyrod Taylor's not the issue in terms of that. That was your run defense. I think there's bigger problems with the Buffalo Bills coming from that Saints team, coming from that Saints game, rather than blaming the quarterback. Very, very kind of panic, odd, peculiar move right here to make this quarterback change at this stage of the season.
Boys, I don't mean to butt in. Did we hit on all the bet on fade teams?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like that's what we were just going back around the horn there. Big man, you have one that you want to do on a fade team in the NFL, or no, you good on that?
I was just kind of listening to you guys. I think you guys are totally right. I think this is a moronic, odd move by the Bills. We've seen some odd moves in the NFL. I mean, I guess personnel outweighs, winning. I mean, I guess if you have good players and, that's kind of gets thrown to the wind if someone doesn't like someone, it's kind of interesting. I mean, you had a Panthers team who, look, they haven't really – since Calvin Benjamin left, but now that Curtis Samuel's out, it kind of might backfire. At the end of the day, Calvin Benjamin's a good receiver, and we saw drops were a problem for them the other night, and that was an odd move. This is another odd move. I've been on record as saying I think Tyrod Taylor is a pretty decent quarterback. I don't understand what you think you're going to get better than him. Nathan Peterman, I mean, it was arguable that he was very good in college. I mean, he left Tennessee, couldn't hack it there. He went to Pittsburgh, had a decent career, but he also had Tyler Boyd and James Conner to make him look a little bit better at Pittsburgh. This is an odd move. I think Sean McDermott's out coaching a little bit here. You're 5-4, like Ian said. You have a real winnable game coming up here at a very very winnable place. I mean, LA is not a tough place to go play or anything. I don't really quite understand this. And if I'm a Bills fan, which I know we know a couple, I would be absolutely annoyed and pissed off at this move.
No, it's weird. I mean, I know it is the LA Chargers, and it is on the road, albeit a diminished home field advantage, obviously, for LA in that stadium. They don't have much, but still, it's away from home. It's just all of a sudden now Nathan Peterman's going to have to get practice reps quickly. You're going to have a long flight. Remember, it's not going to be as much practice time for the Bills this week either. You got to have that long flight out to LA. So shorter amount of practice to get Peterman ready, and you're still facing a good pass rush. Last I checked, Joey Bosa pretty good at getting to the quarterback here for the Chargers. It's just the timing of it is also very, very strange in terms of this move.
Right. And why would you even wait? Like, you're making the move to Peterman. You forget Phillip Rivers in concussion protocol. He sits this game out. You roll with Tyrod Taylor. You have a legitimate shot as probably even maybe being the favorite on the road to beat this team.
But instead,
you throw it up in flames and start a rookie. It doesn't make any sense.
And that's a good point. Like, I don't get why you do this now. I mean, you're 5-4. Look, if you're 5-10, by the 14 to 15 game, okay, I understand that. I mean, you're not going to win anything, but there's been many teams in the midst of playoff runs. The Miami Dolphins are a perfect example. When they traded Jay Ajayi away, they were in the playoff hunt. I mean, the truth of the matter, you can say what you want about Cutler or Gase or whatever. They were in the playoff hunt. There's just been very odd moves by these NFL teams. And I think a lot of it has to do with, I think the players a lot of the time are basically sabotaging, not necessarily the coach. The coach just doesn't have much leeway here. I think you're kind of being forced by the players in a way. We've seen this in sports, superstars taking over teams and coaches just stepping out of the way and letting them decide what's going to happen. Cam Newton runs that team. I don't think Ron Rivera runs it. Cam Newton runs it.
No, that's a good point, big man. And you can make the argument, in college football, it's more about the coach. In the NFL, it's more about your stars. Would you disagree with that?
No, I think that's in a lot of sports, Drew. I mean, the NBA is a prime example. Eric Spoelstra didn't manage or coach anyone. Joe Girardi doesn't coach anyone. Superstars that make money do what they want. And LeBron James runs the Cleveland Cavaliers. LeBron James runs the NBA, quite frankly. I mean, what he says goes a lot of the time. When he says something, the commissioner listens. And you look at the Carolina Panthers, I guess he didn't quite like what they were doing. Maybe Cam Newton did. I've heard he liked Calvin Benjamin. I've heard he didn't like it. We don't know, but there's a curious thing of why you're getting rid of these players at these times. It doesn't make any sense. And it surely doesn't make sense to sit Tyrod Taylor down. Why? Because Nate Peterman in 10 attempts was 7 for 10 in garbage time against the Saints. So he's all of a sudden ready to lead this team on the road. There's no way. I don't care if he's your quarterback or he's not going to be your quarterback. This is not the time to do it. And for those fans that pay countless dollars to watch this team play, you owe to them to put the best players on the field to win football games. This is a ridiculous, moronic, idiotic decision.
It's hard to defend. And regarding Girardi, by the way, you're right. He didn't make decisions. The dopey little black book he had, the baseball Bible he had, made the decisions, and that told him what to do. But thankfully, Yankees fans don't have to see that anymore.
Good point.
Hey, let's give a shout out to the chat box. We got D, Tomar, Austin, all you guys. Thanks for chiming in, asking about Maction. We'll get to it in college football in just a little bit. We got some more NFL to talk about. If you like the content, please give us a thumbs up, the like button. It helps us out a lot. Talking the Sunday night game in the NFL. We got Philadelphia at Dallas. Looks like Philadelphia hanging -3 at 5 dimes, 3 and a hook. A lot of other places on the SBR odds screen right now. 48 the total. At Babano, you got an opinion on this game for Sunday night?
It's a sit back and watch and enjoy game for me. Won't be involved. I could only take Philadelphia. I don't like the issues with Dallas right now. At the same point in time, I do not like backing teams, especially laying points on the road off a bye when they were rolling into the bye week. The bye week can be a momentum killer for teams in this kind of spot. That is my one reservation with the Eagles here in this spot, but it's my only reservation. It's the only way I could play it is the Eagles laying the points on the road, but I do have concerns about that spot. I've seen this too many times. And in fact, wasn't it the Eagles last year that got off to that hot start, had the bye week, and then things started to crumble a little bit after that? And it was Doug Peterson. Again, it was his first year when that happened. So that's a concern for me, but I don't want any part of Dallas, not with the issues, not with Sean Lee's injury, Tyrone Smith out. I mean, you got issues all over for this Dallas Cowboys team, a Dallas team that you could see without Elliott, of course, with serving that suspension finally after all this time, not able to get any sort of consistent ground game going against the Atlanta Falcons on the road last week. We saw Dak Prescott look a little bit human without Zeke Elliott by his side on that Cowboy offense. So I lean at Philly. It's the only way I'm betting it, but momentum being killed potentially for Philly off that bye week is a legit concern I have.
And at Babana, let me ask you a follow-up question. Looking at the SBR odds right now, it looks like -3.5 pretty much everywhere. -3, -125 at 5 dimes. You would lay the extra 25 at 5 dimes, correct, on your Philadelphia Eagles lean?
I would if I was betting it, but I'm not.
Okay.
So there you go. Yeah.
Fair enough, man. Donnie, any follow-up to what Ian said?
Yeah, we got a couple points on this game. If you're looking at the hook I don't think the hook's even going to play in this game. Do I think it's going to be an easy rollover win for the Philadelphia Eagles? No, it's an NFC division game. It's hard to win division games on the road. We've all seen it there. Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. A little bit undermanned now that you take his best weapon away, but they're still going to put up a fight. They're not going to roll over, and you're right, coming off. Now, keep in mind, everybody out there, this is my PSA of the week. Some people will actually go back to 1999 when Andy Reid took over the Philadelphia Eagles and how good they are off of the bye week and throw that in there and say, have you seen the Eagles off the bye week, their record since 1999? Doesn't mean a goddamn thing in this football game, so throw that right out the window. Ian's right. We'll see how they come off the bye week. I think overall the better football team, and the bye actually came at a good time, I think, Ian, for the Philadelphia Eagles. You just acquired Jay Ajayi, who's now going to be your lead dog down the stretch. You got him a little bit ingratiated in the offense last week, scored a touchdown. Everybody's feeling good about it. You have the extra bye week. Now he comes out as your bona fide starter, ready to rock and roll, with everything picks up, blitz pickup, passing packages. He's going to be in there and be your back 65 to 70% of the time. Also, you're getting Ron Darby back. Why is that so important to a secondary that's been playing really well as of late? Now you have that super speed burner to match up with Des Bryant, put him in the slot, mix him up with Terrence Williams. It's another key cog into that equation, and rest is always a key ingredient in the NFL when you're looking at games. I think the line is about right, 3.5. I don't think it's going to matter, so whether or not you buy the hook or have a -130 at 3, I don't think that's going to come into play. I have the Eagles by at least a touchdown in this football game, but again, folks, I caution you again. Don't look at the Eagles' bye week numbers under Andy Reid. It has nothing to do with this football game overall. To me, Eagles are a better football team that should win this game by a touchdown.
Yeah, I look at the Doug Peterson numbers. It's 0-1 off the bye, so he's got to get
go.
off the schneid here this week if
Correct.
the Eagles are going to get that win off the bye.
Big man, get in here. What do you think, man?
Yeah, but technically in that Lions game, there was a terrible fumble at the end of the game, a game they had control of most of the game. I hear you on Ian's point. They weren't good last year off the bye, but you look at in 2015, off a bye, they go down to Dallas and get the job done, 33-27. So, listen, this team's different than those teams. This team is much better. This team is much more prepared. We also had to remember that the Chip Kelly absolute mess. So, yeah, the whole stat thing about off the bye, this is a different football team, if you ask me. And I think Donnie made really good points about, and I was actually going to mention that 10-year thing, mentioning that people will look at that and actually put that into why the Eagles may or may not cover this game. But, you look at delusional Jerry Jones in this game, mentioning that he thinks that, even if Tyron Smith doesn't play, they're going to be better than if he was in there, which is an absolutely ridiculous point. I don't know what his point there. I guess he's trying to motivate Chaz Green to play better. But, we can all talk about Ezekiel Elliott going out, which is huge. But, I think the bigger issues are Tyron Smith not playing and Sean Lee not playing. But if you're a Cowboys fan, this is what happens. Sean Lee never plays. Sean Lee's missed a game, I think, in every year in his since he's came into this league. Also, we have to look at the fact that Dan Bailey's not in the game either. This is big. There's a lot of things here. I believe they missed a field goal last week, if I'm correct, the Cowboys.
Off the upright. Yep.
These little things that they don't have that they normally are so – you look at these three players and you say, well, if they're in there, good things will happen, and you're totally right. These are three elite football players, especially Bailey. He never misses kicks. It's just the Eagles continue to really just come up in good spots. I would comfortably lay 6 points in this game. I think the Eagles will be refreshed. The culture in this locker room is different. Obviously, Donnie and I living where we do. Literally 20 hours of my day is Eagles talk. It's all we hear. And again, I don't think anyone's too high around here. People are just taking it game by game, and this is a huge thing, and they're getting Dallas at a great time here. I think the Eagles win 31-17.
All right. Good stuff, big man. Hey, you guys want to throw out anything NFL-wise before we move on?
I'm good.
No, I think it's pretty much, there's some good, battle-tested games are going to come down the stretch. And Jeff is right there. Nobody's really too high on the Eagles, but we know we have a really good football team here. They should be able to beat Dallas. They're favored to beat Dallas. I expect them to. The Eagles are going to get tested when they have that 2-game swing on the road trip there where they're going to take on the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. You'll see what they're made of. The Eagles can get that split 1-1 out there on the West Coast. They're headed for a home playoff bye, and they should be able to wrap up most of that by week 15, week 16, week 17 after that takes place. But their, big games are coming, and we'll see how really good they are when they head on the road.
One point I'm going to make about the Minnesota Vikings, they've got a little conundrum coming up, a situation where they're going to end up deciding, do we have to give Teddy Bridgewater the reins at quarterback, or are we going to stick with Case Keenum? And let's give Case Keenum credit. He's done a good job, managed the offense, and actually made some nice throws last week in the game against Washington. We'll give him all the credit for that. But if it comes playoff time, and here's the Minnesota Vikings with Case Keenum as their quarterback, can I look myself in the mirror and say we can maybe win an NFC title or a Super Bowl with Case Keenum as the quarterback? Am I really going to have to try to say that, make a case for that? No pun intended. I don't know. But I will say this. In the playoffs, defenses fine-tune their game plans even more. You get tighter execution, scheming, especially towards shutting down opposing quarterbacks in the postseason than you do in the regular season. As Case Keenum, for the Minnesota Vikings in big spots like that in January, if he's still the quarterback of this football team, capable of making those big plays against some of the best defenses he'll have seen all season long, that's still a legitimate question mark I've got for the Vikings. For an otherwise team that's playing very good and is very obviously well coached with Mike Zimmer, his ATS record speaks for that.
All right, Ian. Hey, we got to come right back at you, man. We got some Canadian sports to talk about. Looks like we're in the Final Four in the CFL. Want to get your opinion on who you think is going to come out on top for the Grey Cup. And also wanted to bring up, if you're not following Ian on Twitter, you need to, at Babano. You were doing a little dance number there the other night and getting a lot of feedback. I loved it, man. You need to be doing more of that stuff. But let's do a 60 seconds of Ian Cameron. Have at it, man.
Yeah, I know people are saying, where's the sequel? When's it coming out for that dance sequence? So we'll see. Maybe down the road we'll come up with something else. But yeah, I mean, it's actually I do that sometimes. Actually, at the end of the day, it's actually not every day I do that, but usually when I'm done, and the music's pumping the whole day when I'm working. So it's one of those situations where I'm just excited. You know, most of my work is done for the day. I get a little dance, get a little groove on. So that's what we did there. CFL wise, Final Four, East-West final. We've got Saskatchewan and Toronto. Toronto a 2.5-point home favorite. Total 53. Edmonton, Calgary in the West final. We've got Calgary 5.5-point home favorite in that game. The total in that 51.5, 52 range for that football game. So it's one of those situations where we've got four very good football teams. I mean, tough to call both of these games. Obviously, you'd expect that division finals. But if I had to, I'm going to go Saskatchewan Roughriders against the Edmonton Eskimos in an all-West Western team Grey Cup. I really think so. Saskatchewan is a crossover team from the West to the East because they had a better record than the third-place East Division team. I think they have a chance to beat Toronto. They're playing very good. They're the better defensive team, and I like that at this time of year. And Edmonton, I think, can upset the ballyhooed, the model franchise, the CFL for years, the Calgary Stampeders. I think Edmonton's got a shot to beat them. Edmonton's won 6 straight games. They're playing their best football. Calgary did not play well down the stretch. They coasted. They had locked up first place in the West. They have not played a serious, intense football game in weeks. Bo Levi Mitchell's been in and out of the lineup the last couple weeks. He hasn't played a full game in 3 weeks, and when he did play down the stretch for Calgary, he struggled a little bit, played some of his worst football I've seen. I think Calgary's vulnerable for the first time this year in the playoffs. So give me Saskatchewan and Edmonton Grey Cup next Sunday.
So liking both dogs, huh?
Leaning both dogs, exactly. I don't see with Saskatchewan. I need +3 before I can actually bet it. But just for the sake of making a pick, throwing a straight up pick out there, I'll say they beat Toronto.
Nice. And which book tends to be the leader as far as taking, I guess you could say, bigger or sharper money as far as who would get to that 3 possibly first?
The Greek is very on top of CFL. No question about that. They're always probably the first book to post CFL lines every single week. Heritage is up there. I think Bet Online's probably up there. Bookmaker/Chris. Those are the handful of books that really get CFL lines posted out there pretty early.
Okay. And I got to correct myself. It wouldn't be sharper. If you're liking +3, it would be the opposite of sharp. But hey, guys, let's get into college basketball. And I got to bring up a point here. We got the college basketball contest. If you go to SBR picks, you'll see the tab for contests. And it's a monthly contest. So if you get off to a bad start, it will just kind of redo it the next month. You can start over and get bet points here on SBR, which you can turn into some good prizes here. So make sure to sign up for that. I know I'll be a part of it. I'm sure Big Man on Campus, maybe Ian and Donnie as well. But I'd feel remiss not to get you in here, Big Man on Campus. What's on your mind, college basketball betting wise, man?
I think last night we saw 2 titanic matchups. And look, I've made my comments on ESPN and their terrible sports takes. But I think one thing they do well is, I mean, they get together some of these teams early in the year and they make it a great, night of basketball. I mean, just if you love basketball, I mean, last night I was in my just heaven for me. I mean, other than that, I'd like to see like a little bit more even of games. But I think we learned 2 things last night. Listen, you can try to make a case that that there's a team better than Duke, and I know we're only 3 games into the season, but Duke is the elite team in this. I mean, it's not close. The talent they have is just way better than everyone else. Grayson Allen, look, we can keep bringing up the fact that he tripped someone, but he's a leader, okay? He is. I mean, what he did last night was unbelievable, really. It was probably the best game he's ever played at Duke, I think. And they have a point guard now. I'm not a Trayvon Duval fan from a shooting perspective. He can't shoot a lick. If he just stays in the true point guard role, the sky's the limit for Duke. And they did all that without Begley, and Begley's their best player. So it's just truly amazing the run they went on at the end of the game. Really, really fantastic. And another thing I think we learned is Kentucky is a good team. They're not a great team. It wouldn't surprise me if someone upsets them in the SEC this year. I think if a team's going to do it, it'd be the Florida Gators. I'm really high on that group, like Missouri too. Michael Porter will come back healthy. Alabama. There's a lot of good teams in the SEC. I'll say this right now. I think a lot of people, we always just slack Kentucky in preseason rankings, but I think as the season goes on, we're going to see them be pretty vulnerable. I don't know that talent-wise this is one of the better teams they've had. Quaddy Green can't guard anyone. I like Knox. I like Washington, but do they have good enough guard play to win games in March and February? I'm not sure they do. I'm in love with Bassett right now, Drew. It's beautiful. It's great to see. Duke, I am ridiculously high on.
Yeah, man, you bring up Grayson Allen. One thing I noticed, obviously, he had a great game. Look very improved even from last year. And one thing, he had an interview with SVP on ESPN after on that show, and he seemed to me to be very mature. Even after that big game, kind of almost like the offseason, he grew and matured more. Would you look at that as a bet-on opportunity for Duke?
It is very much a bet on. That's one thing I used in some of the breakdowns that I've done on Duke. It's important, that Grayson Allen doesn't have the world on his shoulders. And I felt like last year maybe he did a little bit. I know they had a lot of great players there, but he kind of got in his feelings a little bit too much. He was a little immature. But one thing you have to see with these kids, when they're basically exploited, by the media and things like that, they start to settle down generally. And that's why I think like the LiAngelo Ball thing, that was the lesson they needed to learn. They were exploited by everyone. And I think as a kid, you see that thing. You don't want to be, the forgotten player that messed up and didn't do it right. Grayson Allen, I think, has a chip on his shoulder this year. And I think Van Pelt made an interesting comment and question. What makes Trayvon Duval so good for you? And I think his answer was perfect. He gets me my shots. He gets me into position. I don't have to play the point guard role as well. He does it for me. He knows where I'm at. And the chemistry they have, I think, as the year goes on, is just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's really bad news for everyone else.
Yeah, and we have Conrado in the live chat chiming in. What about Kansas's defense? You want to chime in on that? They look pretty good.
Yeah, they looked really good. And I think that was a lot of, Drew, it had to do with the fact that I don't think Kentucky's a very good offensive team, to be really honest with you. I think this team's really going to have some trouble over the next couple games. They need to get chemistry quick, and it might never come, Drew, because I don't think there's not a lot of one and dones on this team. I think Quade Green will stay. I mean, Kevin Knox might leave, but other than that, I don't know that there's a lot of professionals right now on this team. He's going to have a little bit of trouble, Cal, over the next couple of days getting that offense figured out. But Kansas, Drew, didn't play well offensively last night. Graham, LeGerald Vick, Malik Newman, they had no height last night. Billy Preston didn't play, and they still were able to win the game. That's huge. I think a lot of people will look and say, well, they only won by 4. They were in a predicament as well. Their guards didn't play well offensively. They had literally no height other than Azubuike. When Billy Preston comes back, they're another team. As I've said, I think Kansas is a really good team as well. None of those guards will play that bad over the rest of the year.
Okay, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Athletically, to me, Kansas looked a little bit, overmatched. Not that they can't improve.
I think you're right, and I think, but again, they still were able to win the game with limited offensive output. I mean, one of their better players was Fee Mihailuk. I mean, that's not what you want. He's kind of a mess on defense. They just need to get Billy Preston. Billy Preston's an All-American. He's a kid that can go out and play on the perimeter. He can play down low. He just gives them another added dimension that they need. They're going to be fine. They didn't play well offensively last night. They were still able to pull it out. So I think that kind of goes pretty far for them. Okay.
And Ian, you want to jump in here? Any college basketball thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to see how things have played out. I mean, what's been impressive to me is Syracuse defensively has looked very, very strong so far this season. No question about that. Great performance again last night in a win against Iona, although they just narrowly missed a point spread cover. A lot of teams have impressed me. Obviously, Duke goes without saying what they've done. Wichita State's looked very, very good. And even though they've had some transition with their roster and their personnel early on, and for them to look as impressive as they have has been good. How about the Minnesota Gophers? A nice road win for them against Providence the other night. Very, very impressive stuff. Looking forward to seeing how they respond tonight because they're playing Niagara tonight. And I like that Niagara squad out of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference as well this season. Very good backcourt experience. So that's going to be a good matchup. And I think Niagara, if Minnesota's a little sleepy coming out of that big win against Providence, Niagara could be a little bit of a tougher game for Minnesota than people think tonight, but we'll see. But Minnesota's been very, very impressive. The MAC conference to me, not the MAAC, the one with 1A, the MAC, I've got some concerns about this conference. They lost a lot of good talent from last year across the board. Akron did, Buffalo did. And in fact, I'm fading one of those MAC teams as a best bet on the show later on, college basketball. So you want to stay tuned for that later on. But yeah, I've got concerns about that conference as a whole. How about Arizona State blowing out San Diego State last night? Very, very impressive second half from the Sun Devils. I've always liked Bobby Hurley. He's a very, very good head coach. Did a great job with Buffalo. Buffalo's been okay without him, but they certainly miss him, and he's doing good work at Tempe. That was a good San Diego State team that Arizona State just rolled in the second half of that basketball game. So impressive stuff. Lots of things that I've taken in. It's early on. And another thing I've taken in, Pittsburgh Panthers are horrendous. This team is just this program's a complete disaster right now under Kevin Stallings. They've got zero talent. They had 3,000 people in attendance the other night for their game against Montana at the Peterson Event Center there, that little ragamuffin gym that they play in. I mean, absolutely awful for the Pitt Panthers. There's nothing I like about that basketball team right now. It's going to be a long season in Pitt.
Hey, Drew.
Donnie, yeah. Go ahead.
I wanted to mention one thing on one of Ian's points. Mention Syracuse. I was real impressed with that game last night they played. They're really underrated defensively. This might be, and I said it with Donnie on the closing line, this might be their best defensive team they've had. They're incredibly long at each position. The zone has been really suffocating. And look, they should have covered last night. They kind of screwed around for a while, but they're really good defensive. That's a great point by him. All the points I would definitely second. Arizona State was an avalanche last night. San Diego State, I think they forgot there was a second half because they went in with a ton of momentum up 6, and they just get absolutely blitzed in the second half. That was tough to watch from an Aztec perspective.
You know what's been peculiar too, of going back to the Syracuse game quickly, watch this for Iona. Maybe a sign that this team is going to be a little bit not way down, but maybe a notch down. They've been awful shooting the 3-ball in 2 games this year, Iona. So that's something you're going to want to watch for moving forward. Yeah, that
was what was kind of hard to take with that non-cover last night, because one of the angles I had going into that game was, look, I didn't think Iona would shoot too well against that zone, and they didn't particularly, and they still were able to get a cover. It was a tough one to swallow, but those even out over the long run.
And what about Arizona State's guards? I know they're both about 6 feet, maybe not even.
No, they're not even. Shannon Evans, Remy Martin. Yeah, no, they're not big at all.
Those guys are good though. They're quick as hell.
They're very fast. That's the hyper offense that they have. And look, I mean, the only concern that your Arizona State is, they'll make the tournament. It's just that Pac-12 is really good. The top 5 teams in the Pac-12 are some of the best teams in the country. I mean, all of them. So that's going to be tough. But Hurley's doing some good things. They have a real tough arena to play there. That's a tough place to go play. Their fans are very good. I like that team. They definitely showed me something against that defense. That's it. And that San Diego State team, they're going to have to fix some stuff on the defensive end, because the offense is good, but you got to get some stops. And
that's the problem, big man. Yeah, with San Diego State, they're going up tempo, and I respect that. They had to jumpstart a stagnant offense for years that was that way under Steve Fisher, but you can't have it at the expense of your defense. And it's early, you can't push the panic button, but it looks like right now we're speeding things up, we're opening it up, we're flying up and down the basketball court at the expense of our defensive acumen, which hasn't been as strong so far.
And those things happen. I mean, sometimes teams just get blitzed. I mean, Arizona State really played a perfect 20 minutes. Dave Koken pointed that, actually. I saw him tweet that. He said he played, and I agreed totally. I thought he was totally on point there. They just came out. It seemed like they didn't miss anything.
Hey, good college basketball talk, guys. I'm excited to do this on the roundtable every week. Hey, Donnie, I feel like you've been quiet for too long. You got any college basketball topics or anything on your mind? And also, what's going on in the chat box, dude?
No, I do. I got an idea there. Did college basketball even start yet? I mean,
what's going on in the chat box there, man?
Oh, and I don't know. I'm like 101-0 argument wins versus a supposed lawyer right now. So
I mean,
well, I'm having fun. I love the chat box.
He takes L's every day on the chat box. He keeps just
we have the TKO button now, which is great. So every time you win an argument, you just get in there and hit the TKO. He gets that standing 8 and comes back out. They wobble off the ropes, then you just throw like 2 more punches and put them right back in TKO. That's what's happening right now.
He takes L's every week. It's amazing. He keeps coming back for more.
He should actually be really nice to us. Like that whole time with the Arizona over 8.5. He's lucky. I have a compassionate heart with gamblers. When I know they're out of their element, I don't just take their money and say, look, Arizona's not making the playoffs. They're not getting the 8 or 8.5 wins. Just be thankful. Just be thankful that I let you off the hook on that.
Are you saying he's in the corner with the ice bag over his eye right now? Yeah.
He's got the ice bags. He's like, cut me, Mick. Like, no, stop the fight. It's okay. It's okay to take the loss.
No, good stuff, guys. We're going a little bit over on time, but do want to give everybody a reminder about the college basketball contest. Make sure to sign up. Use the tab on SBR Picks. Get a bunch of free stuff if you do well, and it will reset each month. Please give us the thumbs up button, like button if you're liking the content. Guys, we got to get to college football. Let's start off with bet on fade teams. I'm sure everybody's got one in college football. Donnie, you've been quiet too long, man. What do you got for bet on teams in college football?
Yeah, let's start with the bet on teams there. I mean, you can take a look at numerous, type of teams that you want to look at to bet on, but I'm just trying to singular, maybe prove a point and say, this is what I'm looking for going for. It's that time of the year, folks, when you have the teams that are jockeying for position and you want to get in that top 4. How about some of the teams that are on the outliers, not in the top 4? Like if Miami handles their business, they're going to be in. If Clemson handles their business, they're going to get in. If Alabama handles their business, they're going to get in. But how about those teams on the outside looking at right now, the Ohio States? What's the only way, Drew, that Ohio State can make its mark and get right back into this picture? We know they have 2 losses. They looked awful at Iowa. You know what you go out and do? You beat teams by 50 to 60 points a week, and I think that's going to start taking place now. The Ohio State Buckeyes are going to take on Illinois at home, a wounded Illinois team. Don't be surprised if Urban Meyer just hits that gas pedal and tries to bust them like 65-0 just to get that headliner, because remember, not too long ago, there was no way Ohio State was going to get in any way possible into the playoff, and they eviscerate Wisconsin as they head down the stretch and didn't let up. One of those things where you're up 35-0, good, let's just take this win. No. I have to prove a point in these football games if my football team wants to get into that Final Four. It's Ohio State right now putting on the gas pedal. 45-0 in the fourth quarter, doesn't matter. They're going to run no huddle up-tempo and try to run that score as high as they can get it to try to get those voters to swing back their way.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to handicap. It's a tough one on the odds makers as well. What number do you actually put out? So you would suggest just betting Buckeyes pretty much at any number?
There's clearly a tax. I mean, if you look overall at the schedule for Illinois and what they're hanging around with football teams. They're not, none of these games in the past couple of weeks, even though they're wounded, are getting up around, 28, 35 points. But I think Vegas is trying to jump that edge as well, not just say, well, let's just bet these games in a vacuum and what you've done in the past. They know Ohio State is in that churn and burn mode where in the fourth quarter, it's not about getting your subs in. It's not about looking forward to next week. It's about hanging a score where that guy opens up the paper the next day and is like, damn, Ohio State won by that much? That's what they're going to try to do from here on out.
Okay. And yeah, guys, we will get to a couple MACtion points on tomorrow's, and even Friday's card and a good matchups on Friday. Big man, what do you got bet on teams in college football?
Bet on Alabama, Birmingham. I mean, people have been betting them all year, but I don't foresee it stopping, and why they don't continue to cover. They were shut down, Drew. You and I talked about this team. Now they're in a bowl. Bill Clark, great job. What a year. They have a 1,200-yard rusher. Their run game has been very good. 22 touchdowns on a season, 41st in total defense. Bill Clark should be the coach of the year in college football. I don't think there's any comparison, really. I mean, there's a lot of great coaches, but none of those coaches had to deal with the program that didn't exist last year. And now it does, and you're going to a bowl. Amazing work. 8-2 against the spread. They have 2 coverable games coming up as well. UAB's been fantastic. Bet against, and I won't labor this point. It'll take me about 30 seconds, but I think we got to just keep betting against Kent State. I mean, you even look at last night. They find a way to score points, and they still don't cover. I mean, they're just dreadful. I mean, their offense sucks. Their quarterback play has been awful. I mean, their quarterback play is truly terrible. 13 interceptions, 7 touchdowns on the year, 49% completion. They're just terrible. I mean, I'd bet against them for as many opportunities as you get a chance to, because even when they score points, they still find a way to screw it up.
And how about Maction at its best? Ohio Bobcats beating Toledo, then coming back and the Akron Zips take it to them. Yep. I don't know. Can't figure some of this stuff out, big man. Ian, what do you got for bet on teams?
It's actually one of the reasons why the MAC's a conference I don't really bet as much as in college football as some other ones. It's very, very odd and just goes crazy like that, where one team just knocks off Toledo, looks so good, and then the next week you lose to Akron. It's hard to fathom. But, yeah, I actually had the same bet on team as a big man, UAB, and especially this week against Florida, taking 11.5 points. You look at this Florida team, they're down to like 50-some scholarship players that are healthy on this Florida roster. They are riddled with injuries up and down this football team. They're going to go back now to Felipe Franks because Del Rio and Zaire now are injured. Who the hell cares? None of these guys can play quarterback. It's been proven already this season. They're absolutely – their injury list is ridiculous how long it is. They're riddled on defense. 4 linebackers out. 5 defensive linemen out. 3 safeties out. I mean, unbelievable losses personnel-wise for the Florida Gators. So now you've got UAB coming into the swamp. You're not only injury riddled, you're losing games now. You're on a 3 or 4 game losing streak. The Randy Shannon interim coach move hasn't sparked this team one little bit. You're not likely to go to a bowl game now. What's the incentive to go out there and keep trying and keep fighting the good fight here against UAB this weekend? I don't see it. Give me UAB plus the points. I mean, what we're going to expect Florida just all of a sudden with tons of injuries, with no bowl aspirations, and a bad football team on a losing streak to just suddenly show up and clobber this UAB team by margin. You know, obviously they're going to have talent and speed edges. I understand that, but if that talent and speed doesn't show up mentally, it doesn't matter in the end. So I like UAB there. Bet against teams for me. 2 peas in a pod as far as I'm concerned here. Rice or UTEP. Pick your poison. Who's worse at this point in time? These are 2 horrendous football programs. They have quit on the defensive side of the football. Absolutely abysmal, atrocious stuff from both of these teams. I think if you just bet against Rice and UTEP blindly the rest of the season, you come out profitable, period, end of story.
And Jeff and Donnie, let me get you guys in here. Ian brings up UAB, which you touched on, Jeff, but it's not 3 touchdowns, guys. It's 10.5. Do you guys?
It's a big adjustment. I agree. It's a big adjustment, and this point spread before the season would have looked insane. That Florida's only laying 11.5 at home to UAB back in the FBS for the first time in years. But you've got to sometimes just look past what the line might have been and look at the situation as it is now. Florida's hopeless. They're not playing well. There's been no emotional response or surge whatsoever from the departure of Jim McElwain and Randy Shannon taking over. The quarterback situation's a mess. They're riddled with injuries. This is an opponent that's not going to excite them whatsoever outside of the SEC, outside of conference play this late in the season with so precious little to play for. I still got to look UAB in this spot. I still have to. Any
opinion on this, Jeff or Donnie?
Yeah, I mean, I think it also adds in the fact of how excited are these UAB players going to be going into this atmosphere. You know, you have Florida, a big SEC team. They're not playing well at all. I've said it all year. This team sucks. They have no talent. They have limited depth. Their coach is a moron. They stink. They're 1 notch below Tennessee. That's what they are. They're not that good defensively this year. Lately, they've been awful, stopping anyone. They're giving up 38 points over the last 3 games. And not for nothing, they're not a particularly good run defense either. I think they're 90th in the country against the run. UAB can run the football. UAB's a solid program. Clark is a great coach. They're just playing really well, and I think they're going to savor this opportunity. I think this would be the cherry on top for Florida athletics to lose a game like this. Will they? I don't know, but I don't know how you could consciously lay this kind of number. I mean, who's Florida's quarterback? I mean, really? I mean,
Felipe Franks. Doesn't matter. It's interchangeable. Right. None of them can play. Not that I've seen. None of them can play.
And he better make sure
Zaire?
No, Zaire got injured.
He's injured.
He's out.
So now you're really thrown into a corner. You don't have really any options. All your skill position players have been out for long periods of time. And Drew, even look at their wins. a couple of their wins were not good. I mean, they a lot of them were at the last second. I mean, they've lost 5 in a row to teams that they should beat. They got crushed by Missouri. I mean, Drew Lock made them look stupid. UAB covers this number. I would be. This would be one of the surprises of the year if Florida can get up off the mat and cover double digits against a really hot, well-coached team. I think UAB will really savor this opportunity.
I already got UAB plus 325 money line in pocket, or plus 336 actually at Pinnacle is where I bet it. I think they can win outright. And I'm not being crazy or insane thinking that. I feel like this is a down and out Florida team as far as I'm concerned. They're injury riddled, suspension riddled, not playing well, an opponent that's not going to excite them one bit, or I'd be shocked if it does. I think they're big time vulnerable.
That's got to be look at their season profile. If they could go into the swamp and win, they would lose to the Charlotte 49ers and beat the Florida Gators in the same season. That would be a little ridiculous. But Donnie, did you want to throw out anything else fade wise?
Fade-wise teams I'm going to go to the Big Ten again, and I'm going to use Nebraska at this point. 4-6 on the season. So you say, hey, man, there's a shot, right? If we get to 6 wins, we got 2 games left. Well, you're going to play Penn State. They are going to shred your bum-ass defense right up and down the field. Tanner Lee coming into the game with a concussion might not be playing. That's going to end that, so you're going to have no shot at the bowl. And then you get Iowa to end the season at home. Now, it is a home game at Nebraska, but it's probably going to be more like a funeral because the only thing the fans are going to want is blood, the coach fired, who's going to be our next football coach. I'm going to boo him there. Yeah, they'll sell out and have a lot of fun at that football game, but at Nebraska's expense, they're a completely fade-on team. They are going to get shelled. Don't be surprised. Penn State hangs a 50 spot on them this weekend.
Yeah, you're not bowl eligible in the middle of November for a reason. You're probably not very good. So
yeah, and again, it's not like we can rally. I mean, maybe they're saying, hey, let's rally the troops if we win our last 2. Well, you're not going to Penn State and winning, so the funeral is already on and popping.
Yeah. Hey, Donnie, is Georgia Tech the best 5-win team in the nation?
I mean, I haven't looked at 5-win teams, but Georgia Tech's always going to give you problems in every game, regardless. They're going to play you tough. So, I mean, if they have a 5-win team, if there's another team 5-win out there, they're probably the best 5-win team. They're always tough.
Yeah, man. If you're not following Donnie on Twitter, make sure to do it. Good follow. Also a good follow at Jeff Nadeau. What's up, man?
Thanks, man. We just wanted to mention one other thing off the record for Florida. We continue to coddle these athletes and not do anything about what went on. I mean, these receivers that did this credit card thing, I've read recently they're going to possibly have some kind of pretrial intervention that could dismiss felony charges, basically give them probation. I mean, if this was you and me, we'd go to prison for 3 years. I mean, it's a joke. I mean, what is this teaching these kids? These are repeat offenders. Antonio Callaway's been arrested several different times. Look, I'm all for teaching kids lessons. If they make a mistake once, give them a little punishment. But when you're continuously doing things time after time after time, at what point are we going to stop coddling these people and say, this is what happens. You're going to prison. You're going to deal with your mistakes. This whole, because they play football, is fucking sickening. I'm sick of it. It's old. It's tired. These football programs that continually sweep this stuff under the carpet. And I'm talking about crimes that if you and I committed, we'd go to prison for. NCAA needs to wake up. This is pathetic.
Guys, should we break down the Michigan-Wisconsin game?
Yeah.
Michigan. Yeah, exactly. Everybody and their mom's going to bet Michigan, and Wisconsin's going to run them over like a road grader this weekend.
Okay, so what? We got Wisconsin 7.5, 39.5 the total. Jeff, how are you betting it?
Well, I'm looking at the under in this game. And I think the weather's going to be a bit of a problem. You look at the long-term National Weather Service weather, 30-mile-an-hour winds possibly, cold. It's going to be gusty out there. And I want to shout out to Donnie Wright. Shout out to Salem County's own Jonathan Taylor, who has really done a great job, which Donnie's mentioned. But, I got a question. I wonder this is an interesting handicapping game because you look at the step-up games that Michigan had. Penn State, Michigan State didn't do a great job at stopping the run. Against those players, though, they were a little bit more dynamic. They could run quicker. They're just kind of those up-tempo kids. But you look at the one game that Taylor struggled in against Northwestern. Very good run defense as well. Michigan, they're kind of right statistically at the same point. But I have to ask, how does Michigan score in this game? I love Brandon Peters, but I think he's going to have a tough job in this game. Most of his running backs are out injured. Evans, Higdon, Ty Isaac's injured. Where's the scoring going to come from in this game? I think Michigan will pin their ears back and play well defensively. Also, I don't know if Hornibrook's a guy that can go and beat them down the field every game. Michigan, this is a big game for them. They're first in the country in third down defense. I think that's going to help them in this game. I don't know where these points are going to come from. And I'll keep saying it. I felt like I've had some good reads on these totals. We've had to deal with some overtimes and stuff, but I think this is a low-scoring football game. And I got to be real. I think in a game like this, I think a touchdown's pretty important. I think Wisconsin's going to have a test here. I don't think this is going to be a 30-1 to 17 type of game where they just pull away. Michigan's better right now with Peters. They're a little bit more dynamic. He adds in a little bit to them. I think defense is huge in this game. I think it's like a 14-9 type of game, something like that. I think it's really low scoring, frankly.
Donnie, you agree with him?
I do agree because two good defenses, but sometimes, Wisconsin, we always say like they haven't played anybody yet, and I get it. And their good games are coming up. They're going to have to play, a good Michigan football team. They're going to have to end the season in the Big Ten title game. But if you look at what their defense has done the last 5 games, Purdue, 66 yards rushing, 155 passing. Maryland, 143 on the ground, 125 passing. Illinois, 134 on the ground, 152 passing. And they even go to the last game, Iowa. Iowa had 66 yards. You saw what Iowa and Ohio State, when they matched up, what Iowa did. They held that Iowa team to 66 yards for the game. Not for the first quarter, not for the drive, not for the first half. 66 yards for the entire football game.
Do you agree, though, Donnie, that the performance against Ohio State was a bit of a mirage? I mean, Iowa never does that. I mean, I know, but it's just kind of like, because everybody always likes that narrative that they don't play anybody. Right. Well, Iowa dismantled Ohio State, and then Wisconsin dismantled, a decent Iowa. Do I love Iowa? No, but Iowa should have beaten Penn State as well. I mean, they're a tough football team, but going forward, I've watched Wisconsin time and time again. They're really good on defense. But the one thing I love about their offense is when they need to get a yard or two, it's automatic. Line up with those big boys up front, those big corn-fed dudes, and hand it off to Taylor, and it's an automatic first down. It's fun. I'm going to enjoy watching this football game because, Jeff, how much do we rail on the Big 12 out there? You want opposite Big 12 football? Watch this football game. This is everything that's good about football, in my opinion. You have two teams that are tough on defense. They just fly around. They're big, bruising kids. This is great. I'll really look forward to this one. Who can outmaneuver each other? Who has the better special teams? Things like that. The kicker could be important in this game. Quinn Nardine, remember Jim Harbaugh stayed over his house to get him recruited. That could be big in this game. Field goal kicker.
This will be the anti-Big 12 game with the pinball machine. No pinball machine in Camp Randall this weekend. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Guys, what about Maction or weeknight football? Any strong opinions on this? We got
the MAC is the MAC. I mean, last night, if you were to watch the recap there, I gave a pretty damn good breakdown of Ohio and was absolutely 100% wrong on the way Ohio would play. The only thing I got right was Nathan Rourke, who really struggles as a passer. I needed him to hit a couple big shots to open up the running game. He didn't do any of that and looked terrible. But my favorite thing, forget about tonight's games. We have plenty of time to talk about those later. But if you go back to last night, the MAC is one of the few conferences where more than 50% of the time your backup quarterback will play better than your starter. That's why it's Maction, man.
Cato Kalin played well last night.
Cato Kalin looked like he might as well be Lamar Jackson and have the Heisman in his
he's a better option for them at quarterback. Woodson stinks. Get him out of here.
I watched Kalin the last game. I'm like, you know what? He's just going to be. And everybody was wide open versus Ohio last night. Everything that Ohio did well this year, they did nothing last night. They were pushed around and clearly weren't the better football team. I was actually glad they lost. And hey, Toledo's now going to win the MAC again,
which is great. We love Toledo, all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
They've actually never won. They never win the MAC, Donnie, which is something. They haven't been to the title game. I think they've been there once for the last 6 years.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
good for Toledo.
Solin's team seems to stub their toe in one way or another, one fashion or another every year. When you think they're finally going to win this conference,
don't forget they were up 21-10 in that football game in the second quarter with the football, and all hell broke loose, and they got dominated. So hey,
but Donnie, I think they should have. I think they still should have won this game last night. A bad decision by Frank Solich to go for it at the 50-yard line with 4 minutes to go and all the timeouts. What are you thinking there? I mean,
well, even forget about that. Old man Solich and his old school, way of thinking. They're fourth and good. Like you have in the first quarter when you're not banged up, it's 4th and goal from the 1-yard line, and you have the best running attack. If you turn around and hand it off to AJ Ouellette on the 1-yard line, he doesn't get in, Jeff. You know what you do? You clap for the team. That's damn good football, and congratulations, you now have the ball on the 1-yard line. He kicks a field goal in a 24-21 game in the second quarter. Like a field goal is going to make the difference.
He's a good coach
because he doesn't go for it.
He's very conservative. And then when you need him to be conservative, he goes for it. And he could have just punted, kept him inside the 20, played defense, got the ball back with good field position, with a chance to win the game. Instead, you bleed all that clock and you lose.
4th and 1 in the MAC, as long as you're on your own 20-yard line, should be an automatic go for it because yards don't matter. Your punter is probably going to roll out of the pocket and kick a ground ball for 33 yards anyway. What's the difference if you don't get that or you punt for 33 yards? Come on.
That's one of the things, guys, I love about the CFL. Their penultimate down is 3rd down as opposed to 4th, but on 3rd down and 1 or less, they are always going for it. Always, every single time, even on their own 25, 3rd and 1 in the CFL, they're going for it every single time. And if they don't go for it, fan base is going to want to hang the coach from the goalposts at the end of the game. That's one of the good things about Canadian football. 3rd and 1, we're not punting. To hell with that.
If you have AJ Ouellette, you could probably take your offensive line off the field and just do like the Oklahoma drill like you would do in high school and say, AJ, just run right into these 5 guys and barrel them in like bowling pins.
And it's what you do anyway. So, I mean, you should be able to have a leg up on these guys because you look like Jerome Bettis or Mike Allstott, so you should be able to get that 1 yard. But, hey, guys, I do want to mention this. Florida State should be able to get a win this week. So Seminole fans can take solace in that. They have a tough game, but I think a winnable one. Maybe people are missing my joke. They're playing Delaware State, which they should be able to win, I would hope. But, hey, you never know, Donnie. The Fighting Jamal Jacksons might surprise you this week against Florida State.
Jacksons.
Guys, what about Eastern Michigan, Miami of Ohio? -2.5 Miami of Ohio. Eastern Michigan just got their 7th loss, knocked out of bowl eligibility. Do you guys factor that at all in Maction? Anything on this game?
I don't know. I'm sure the guys will agree with me here. On the road, getting points, it seems like Eastern Michigan, that's where they flourish. They always are in these games. They're like the Chargers of college football. They always cover these games. They might not win, but I'm going to go ahead and guarantee this is like a 27-26 type game, some random score. I like the way Eastern Michigan's played, but you do make an interesting point, Drew, about the deflation.
Exactly. That's the concern I got for Eastern Michigan. They've had one crushing loss, soul crusher, heartbreaking, gut wrencher of a loss after another. Is the fight still in the Eagles this week, tonight in this game? In Miami of O, they got Ragland back last week at quarterback, and they played a damn good football game against Akron. I could only look at the Miami side personally.
Yeah, it's Miami or nothing for me in this football game because, again, you have some good playmakers. Now the Ragland's going to be able to spread that football around. But it comes down to Eastern Michigan. They were so out of whack last week. The one thing they do well is Robach is a average quarterback, but he has good mobility and a good arm and 3 good wide receivers. The only thing you can't do to hurt yourself is throw like 5 interceptions in a ball game. It came out of nowhere, completely against what Eastern Michigan does. But I see your point there. In this game, very close to the wire. But to me, I'm with Ian as well. It's Miami of Ohio. It's a cheap line at home. They're a good football team. They should be able to win this. But again, we've seen Eastern Michigan lose games in crushing, but keep in mind, folks, it's Maction. These kids don't actually live for the actual bowl game aspect of it. This is their spotlight games of the year where they're on national television. They're going to have a lot of fun. There's no quitting Eastern Michigan, and wouldn't be surprised if they went on the road and beat them, but I would be leaning towards Miami of Ohio.
Hey, Drew, also...
At least the nightmare that's Billy Ball is gone finally for Miami.
and also, remember, guys, I mean, it's at home. They got all their guys back here. Ragland's back. Sam Martin and who's the other? James Gardner got a good run game. They're bowl eligible still. They can win these final 2 games. And guys, I think it's comparable to think that they can beat the Ball State Cardinals next week and go bowling. I mean, what better Thanksgiving gift could you give your school that after the dreadful start, the loss to, Bowling Green and Kent State, we're going bowling, boys, right before Thanksgiving. We can enjoy our holiday. We got a bowl game on. This is a great spot. Deflation, but hey, it's the MAC. But for me, if I'm playing this game, and I don't do this that often in football, if I'm playing this game, I'm laying the 135. I'm not laying 2.5 points here, just because I think Eastern Michigan, they always seem to hang in games like this. Give me the 135. I'll pretend it's the Reds in baseball or something,
games,
and go with the money line here. So yeah, sure.
Gus Ragland had a ton of rust on him the first quarter and a bit last week against Akron. Then they had a nice drive right before halftime. And then in the second half against Akron, it looked like the old Gus Ragland again. Bing, bang, boom, right down the field. One drive after another. Touchdown, and they pulled away in that game. He got the rust off in the second half and certainly makes Miami of O a much better team when he's on the field.
Hey Ian, did I give a Miami O Edo impression? Miami O. Yeah, I think tonight we got a big opportunity here. With Miami O. I'm Coach O, for anybody that doesn't know. And when I have a portrait of myself, I actually sign Coach O. We got a big dinner planned as well. We got jambalaya. We got a little pep in the gumbo. We got chicken on a stick. It's going to be a great time to be alive if you're a Red Hawk fan. Let's go Miami O, because I'm Coach O, and that's what I do.
There's going to be one time I stop laughing whenever I hear that impression. It hasn't happened.
Coach O's the best.
That's
a really good Coach O.
That is a good one. Big man, that's a tough follow. Guys, we got to go from the MAC to the Fun Belt. 401, 402, the Degenerate Special. Had some success with this one. Coastal Carolina, Idaho, 52 the total. Looks like -9. You can find a -8 at JustBet right now on the SBR odds screen. Guys, I think that this is the toughest travel spot in all of college football. You're going from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, the week after just getting beat up by a tough Troy team, to Moscow, Idaho on a Sun Belt budget. You're probably the least funded team in all of college football. Not sure how they're doing the travel. Idaho -8 is the side I'm going with. I'm on the Vandals. Donnie, you want to follow that up?
I'll be on the Vandals too, just for the simple fact is when you break this game down, Idaho, again, that is a tough travel spot, but they're on the bye waiting for Coastal Carolina. I know you don't like to take games out of and say, they played them. Both of these teams, actually, last game was versus Troy. Coastal Carolina got shelled at home 42-17, and Idaho went to Troy and played them tough 24-21. They're on the bye. They're at home. And keep in mind, folks, this is their last year in Division I football, so they're going to drop down. Maybe they get a little bit, get a little bit emotional in the Kibbe Dome up there. Give me Idaho in this football game.
Jeff, anything different?
Yeah, I actually, Drew, as far as the degenerate games we've talked about, this is probably my favorite game we've talked about. I really like Idaho in this game. I mean, guys, imagine being, Coastal Carolina. I actually used this. It's interesting you pointed this game out, Drew. I used this angle last year when taking Wyoming in the CBI, I believe it was, against Coastal Carolina. It was a dreadful spot. I mean, Laramie's very tough. You look at Moscow. 2,580 feet above sea level, pretty high. Definitely not where Coastal Carolina is particularly ready to play. They're off of bye, Idaho. They got 3 games left. They have 3 wins, so you still have your opportunity. You're leaving Division I, which Donnie pointed out. And quarterback Tyler Keene's out for Coastal Carolina.
Yeah.
Idaho's been good against the run, which I think you have to be against Coastal. They've covered 16 of 21 against Sunbelt opponents, 4 or 5 this year. They like these opportunities. I think Drew makes a great point about the travel here. Coastal Carolina can't stop anybody. I really like Idaho in this game. Good call, Drew.
Okay. And I want to step in here. The guys on the chat, Brian, or just Brian, he's saying he lives there and they are well funded. I might have spoke out of place just because taking it was an FCS team to FBS team. I don't know if they're well funded.
The point of the matter is, Drew, it doesn't matter if they're funded or not. The point of the matter is there are very few hotel opportunities in Moscow, Idaho. I don't care how much money you have. You're going to be staying at the Best Western in Moscow on Pullman Road.
And you're not flying out on Wednesday, Jeff. We can get acclimated. Like, you're probably flying out the last available flight damn near on Friday. You're going to basically get off the plane and play a football game.
You're 1-9, so who cares about if you win or lose? It's just a terrible precedent to set. It's not a good spot for the team. They're not winning anything. This team has everything to play for. So I don't really mind about the money kind of stuff.
Okay, and they're also on their third string quarterback as well. They have all kind of quarterback
Correct.
injuries. But at Babano, you got anything?
Yeah, Kilton Anderson is their quarterback now, Coastal Carolina. He was okay last week, but nothing to write home about.
Ian, if he was in the MAC, he'd probably dominate and hang like 60 on Idaho in this game.
Exactly. Probably would. I have no argument whatsoever with the Idaho side, because I had Idaho against Troy before their bye week on the road, a double-digit road dog, and they were right in that game against Troy start to finish. It was a Thursday night game, I believe. And, I like Idaho. Matt Linehan can throw the football around. Coastal Carolina plays absolutely no defense, down to a third-string quarterback. But Coastal Carolina, I'm going to add another recommendation onto this game. I like Idaho. I'd lean to them laying the points for sure. Off the bye, well-rested, ready to go against this Coastal Carolina team that's been beaten up. That's now on a 9-game losing streak. You look at their last several losses, most of them have been by 8 points or more. So it's a team that has been losing by margin. Idaho definitely capable of beating them by margin, but Coastal Carolina is an over machine, all because of their defense. 8-2 to the over this season. It's a reasonable number. You see Coastal Carolina in the 50s on a weekly basis, and they keep flying over those numbers for the most part. So not only do I recommend Idaho here, but I'd recommend over the total too. I think Idaho can hang a crooked number, and Coastal Carolina can do just enough to help get that over 52.
All right, guys, let's get into best bets. Jeff, you want to start us off? You have a best bet for the roundtable?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to go tonight. I'm going to take a look at Bookmaker, game 761, 762, all over UNLV in this game. I actually took them the other night against the Florida A&M Rattlers, a team in a very similar conference to tonight's opponent. I think this number is a little too low, to be frank. I think Prairie View A&M is going to have a ton of trouble in this game. UNLV, I'm high on this year, and there's a lot of reasons why. I love Marvin Menzies. I think he's going to do a hell of a job with UNLV. He's able to recruit, and you look at what he did this year. Brought in Brandon McCoy, who was a top 15 recruit. They have so much size on this team. I mean, the Rebels are big. You look at A&M, Prairie View A&M, they have one player over 6'4". I think they're at a significant disadvantage in this game, and the talent advantage just isn't there. I don't know why this spread's not 22, 23. UNLV is a good basketball team. They're a team that I think is going to have a massive, value going forward. Many people aren't high on them. They kind of look at last year. This is a talented basketball team at home. They've only played one game this year. I don't think they're in any sort of time, or energy saving kind of games here. I think they win this game by 30 points. Prairie View A&M's a SWAC team. They're not a good SWAC team with limited talent. And if you know anything about SWAC and MEAC teams, you talk about under money, no money. I mean, I think it's a crime what these teams have to deal with as student athletes. I mean, they're just at a total disadvantage in games like this. I think UNLV goes in and pounds Prairie View A&M tonight. I'll lay the 17.5 at Bookmaker.
Okay, minus 17.5 on the running Rebels of UNLV for big man. Ian Cameron, what do you have for best bets?
Well, I wanted to do this because this is the first roundtable show that we've had where we've had college basketball on the betting slate. So I'm going to have a college basketball best bet for tonight. Let me just make sure we get the rotation right because we got it queued up here. All right, here we go. All right. Jacksonville State taking on Buffalo. We're taking the road team here. Jacksonville State plus 2.5 against the Buffalo Bulls, 747. I think the MAC is down this year. I don't think Buffalo's as good this year. They escape past Canisius their last game. Canisius turns around and gets whacked by Air Force last night. Jacksonville State absolutely pounds Richmond in their last game. Jacksonville State that was in the tournament last year too. This is a good Jacksonville State Gamecocks basketball team out of the Ohio Valley. They can absolutely score. The basketball, tremendous in that regard in terms of being able to put up points. Very good backcourt, very good 1-2 punch. They've got a big man in the front court as well that's been an imposing force for this team. Norbertas Giga is a guy that you're going to want to watch out for here with this Jacksonville State team. Very, very impressive player. I don't think Buffalo's they're still a very good MAC team, but I think that conference as a whole in college basketball is not as good this year. I like this Jacksonville State team. And if this game's close late, we have a massive edge at the free throw line for Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State shooting 77% from the free throw line, 65% for Buffalo. That will matter in a competitively priced game like this. Let's take Jacksonville State plus 2.5. I think they win outright. That'll be my best bet.
All right, Jacksonville State plus 2.5 for Ian Cameron. Ian, where is Jacksonville State?
Jacksonville State. I'm terrible with the locations of these.
Bam. Right?
No,
Alabama.
It's not Florida. I know that. It's that's the easy thing to say. It's Alabama. Yep.
it is okay because when you said Jacksonville State, I'm thinking it's in Jacksonville, Florida, and then you
No,
say Ohio
no.
Valley, and that
There
throws me
actually
off
is
as
at
well.
Jacksonville University out of the Atlantic Sun in Jacksonville.
In Jacksonville, Florida. Exactly. Yep.
And then there's
Okay.
Jackson State as well, which is a SWAC team.
Okay. Well, thanks, big man, for clearing that
See,
up.
I
Donnie.
know the teams and the coaches and the personnel, the locations. It gets a little foggy sometimes.
I'm willing to bet, guys, all of you, that there's not one team you could stump me on where it is in the country. I'm confident that I will not get one wrong. Very confident.
I can believe that. Big man eats, sleeps, and breathes college hoops. So
I just love geography, Donnie. You know that. I don't
and
know.
a geography master. Yeah.
Let's all think of one this week and get him on the roundtable next
Not
week.
going to happen. You won't. Baffle the big man did not go well for people trying to baffle me. It didn't go well. I'm the king.
And would you know the city, or are you just saying the state?
I think I'm confident that I know the city as well, but the state is a complete layup.
Where's Idaho State?
Idaho.
Yeah, but if you're saying the city,
Pocatello.
I don't
No,
know.
come on, Jeff. Think Russia.
Well, that's
Idaho. Moscow.
Yeah, Moscow.
Not Idaho State.
Oh, my bad.
Coeur d'Alene.
Okay. I don't know. We'll figure this out on the next roundtable.
What's
Donnie,
in
what
Idaho?
do you got for best bets, man?
Best bets, keep it short and sweet. 367, 368 college football. Name the score on this one for Urban Meyer and the boys. The over-under right now sitting at 54, 54.5, depending on where you're shopping at. I'm going to bank on Ohio State getting 50 of these. If you just need to cover this over-under, can the Illinois Fighting Illini just get 7 points in this game? Because Urban Meyer will run this up, head out, and eat some Papa John pizza right on a golf cart after this game and see his team hanging 50-plus points in this one. You just need the Illini to get you 7, whether it be a fumble return, an interception, a couple missed tackles out there, because they're going to get the ball 20 times because Ohio State's going to run up and down this football field. Give me 7 from the Illini. You'll cover this over-under with ease.
Okay, so over on 54 on the Buckeyes. That's
Or yes.
There you go.
And I will follow it up with MTSU Western Kentucky on Friday. I'm going with the under of 59. Both teams playing with less pace of late. Since Stockstill's been back, they've actually been running the ball more. They've been playing better. But so I'm going under 59.5 at 5 dimes right now. So we got Jeff on UNLV minus 17.5. Ian, Jacksonville State plus 2.5. Donnie, Ohio State over 54 versus Illinois. And I will be on the MTSU Western Kentucky under 59.5. Guys, great show. Remember, new scheduling next week. We got Jeff and Donnie mornings, 10 a.m. Also, Low Shack in the Bag going at noon, and then again at 6. Anything you guys got on the new schedule?
I just want to mention one thing, Drew. We've not on the new schedule, but I want everyone take a look at what we're doing on the soccer shows. We're up next at 2:00 Eastern. As a collective unit, we're up 115 units on the season. It's all documented, tried and true. We all have our bets in the program. We're killing it. Come take a look at what we're doing. 2:00, all of us right here on SBR, coming up in about 12 minutes.
Awesome, man. All right, guys. Well, thanks for the content. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next Wednesday, 12:30 Eastern time.
Thank you.